I grew up as the only child of a wealthy family in Sichuan for 18 years. By the time I found out that I was actually the real heiress of a powerful old money family in Beijing, I was sitting at a mahjong table, already one tile away from slaughtering all four directions. I didn't even bother looking up. I just asked, recognizing relatives, "Huh? What's the rush? Let me finish this round first," one suit away from a clean hand. "We're 3 players short 1, I can't leave." When I arrived at the Song family's mansion in Beijing, the fake heiress was already crying her eyes out. The classic pear blossoms in the rain routine. The stench of green tea innocence was so strong it was almost visible. "You're back," she sobbed. "I'm the extra one now. I can sleep in the storage room." "That's fine." My biological parents immediately rushed over to hug her, hearts aching for her. I casually reached into my pocket, pulled out a vacuum-sealed pack of extra spicy rabbit head, and shoved it straight into her mouth. "Shut it. Crying this hard just because you have to sleep in a storage room? I thought you were being sent to a morgue. Or should I sleep there instead?" Dead silence. The entire world froze. She stood there, eyes bulging, a rabbit head stuffed in her mouth. I tossed my luggage onto the floor, wiped my hands, and looked at my biological father, whose mouth was still hanging open. "Old man, cut the formalities. There are exactly 4 people in this house. Does anyone here know how to play mahjong?" Before coming here, I already knew the Song family had built their fortune in high-end dining. They called themselves refined elites of Beijing society and cared more than anything about table manners and household decorum. I hadn't planned on coming back at all, but old Lin told me to just treat it like a vacation. So I came. The moment I finished speaking, my words barely had time to settle before Father Song's already unpleasant face turned black as the bottom of a burnt pot. "Mahjong?" He slammed his hand on the table so hard the teacups rattled. "We brought you back to be a proper young lady, not to open a gambling den. Reeking of the streets, what kind of disgrace is this?" Across the room, Mother Song was flustered, wiping chili oil off Song Tanhon's mouth. Tanhon had been choked by the insanely spicy rabbit head and was coughing uncontrollably. Tears and snot all over her face. She pointed at me, her words slurred. "Mom, it's so spicy, so greasy, it's filthy." Mother Song looked at me with pure disgust. "Lady, just look at what you've done." Tanhon had always prided herself on elegance. She'd never eaten anything oily, spicy, or, heaven forbid, street snacks this unsanitary. I pulled out a wet wipe and calmly cleaned every finger that had touched the rabbit head. "What do you mean unsanitary? That's authentic double-flow old hen rabbit head. Dozens of yuan per piece. I let her eat it and my heart still hurts." I flicked the dirty wipe precisely into the trash can. "If you don't know quality, that's your problem. And by the way, my name isn't Lady, my name is Lam and Key. You can call me an N." "That's enough." Father Song's chest heaved violently with rage. "You still dare to talk back? You really grew up wild out there, no upbringing whatsoever. Aunt Zhang, take her to the guest room upstairs. Throw all her trashy luggage somewhere far away." He pointed straight at my nose and issued his final verdict. "No one is to bring her food tonight. Let her starve. She doesn't eat until she figures out what she did wrong." The moment Tanhon heard this, she nestled into Mother Song's arms and shot me a barely noticeable, smug glance. If this were a more sensitive girl, she would have broken down crying on the spot. I just shrugged. I even yawned. "Oh, sure, works for me. Honestly, the food in this place doesn't look appetizing anyway. Just looking at it makes me nauseous." I grabbed my bag and swaggered upstairs behind Aunt Zhang. The moment I entered the room, the door was locked from the outside. Aunt Zhang's voice came from beyond the door, half mocking, half sneering. "Eldest miss, just endure it. In this house, anyone who goes against the master never ends well." The room was cold and empty. There wasn't even a cup of hot water. I tossed my backpack onto the bed and pressed a hand against my growling stomach. "Starve me? In your dreams." I pulled out my phone. opened a delivery app, and set the location directly to the villa complex. My fingers flew across the screen. 1 order of extra spicy hot dip duck. Crispy skinned sausage. Wide cut vermicelli, extra spicy. 2 portions of pig brain. 1 brown sugar ice jelly to cool the heat. In the notes, I wrote clearly and firmly, must deliver to the front gate of the villa. If security won't let you in, stand there and shout. If you can't deliver, I'll call the police and report illegal detention. Half an hour later, downstairs in the dining room, the 3 members of the Song family were seated around the table, enjoying an exquisitely prepared Western dinner. Song Tan-hoon was even putting on a show, delicately slicing her steak. Suddenly, from outside the villa gates, a roar exploded into the night, a delivery driver shouting from his diaphragm, voice piercing as a war horn. An N-key, is an N-key here? Your extra spicy hot dip duck and pig brains are here. Super spicy. That single shout shattered the fake serenity downstairs. I laughed gleefully and leaned over the railing, yelling down in a drawn-out voice. Mom, Dad, could you please go open the gate and grab my food for me? I'd love to be polite, but the delivery guy can't get in. Hurry up, pig brain gets fishy when it's cold. If the whole house starts stinking, I won't take responsibility. The entire mansion was instantly flooded with the tyrannical aroma of chili oil and hot dip duck. Even the Song family's steaks no longer smelled good. I slurped up a strand of wide vermicelli loudly right in front of them, pulled out my phone, pressed the voice record button, and deliberately raised my voice. Old man, this family looks so poor it's gone insane. You don't even give your daughter dinner. Transfer me some money right now. If you don't, I'm afraid I'll starve to death in this so-called aristocratic household. Bang! The wine glass in Father Song's hand was slammed onto the table, shattering into glittering shards. Disgraceful, absolutely incurable. He pointed toward the study upstairs and roared, "Get up there, copy the Song family rules 100 times. If you don't finish, you don't sleep." I wiped a streak of chili oil from my lips, picked up the unfinished pig brain, and calmly went upstairs. At midnight, I stood by the second-floor window and folded the sheets filled with copied rules into paper airplanes. One by one, I sent them gliding down into the koi pond, Father Song's most treasured possession. Watching the soggy paper dissolve into pulp, I slept like a baby. Early the next morning, the moment I went downstairs, Mother Song's eyes rolled so hard they looked ready to flip straight into the sky. "Can you walk any louder?" she snapped. "You're about to stomp the floor through. A girl should move lightly, like a cat, do you understand?" At the dining table, Song Tan-hoon was wearing a perfectly tailored custom school uniform. Around her neck hung a diamond necklace so dazzling it practically blinded anyone who looked at it. She covered her mouth in mock surprise. "Oh my, sister, why are you still wearing those cheap market clothes that cost a few dozen yuan? If you go to school like that, the security guards might think you're a delivery driver. Why don't I lend you some of my old clothes?" I was just about to fire back when the villa's doorbell suddenly went berserk, not a single chime, but a relentless barrage, like carpet bombing. Aunt Jong hurried over to open the door. Outside stood several delivery men, panting as if they were moving house, hauling foam boxes inside one after another. "Miss Lin, who's Miss Lin?" one of them shouted. 12 boxes of airship specialty goods, please sign for them." The huge white foam boxes instantly filled the luxurious foyer until there wasn't even space to stand. Mother Song covered her nose and stepped back. "What is all this? What's that horrible smell? Aunt Jong, throw it all out right now. Who dares bring trash like this into the house?" I stepped forward, pulled out a box cutter, and sliced through the tape with a few swift motions. The moment I lifted the lid, a rich smoky aroma mixed with the warm, pungent scent of Sichuan pepper exploded through the villa. Inside were all vacuum-sealed delicacies, smoked river pork, black pig sausages, whole air-dried free-range chickens, and even a massive bag of premium Han Yuen peppercorns. On top lay a note. Unmistakably in old Lynn's handwriting. My baby girl, I was afraid you wouldn't be used to eating pig feet out there. Cook whatever you want. Song Tan-hoon was hit by the smoky scent and immediately started coughing. Cough, cough, this stinks. What kind of garbage is this? Mother Song's face was full of disdain. As expected of someone from a poor, backward countryside, always eating this kind of carcinogenic junk. I let out a cold laugh and lifted a golden, glossy slab of premium smoked river pork ribs from one of the boxes. The meat was firm and heavy in my hand as I weighed it casually. Then turned to look at the fingernail-sized piece of dry French whole wheat bread on Song Tan-hoon's plate. Stinks? I slammed the smoked ribs onto the table. Milk splashed everywhere in front of Song Tan-hoon. This is authentic black pig meat. Just this one rack of ribs could feed your family for a whole month. I pointed straight at her pitiful piece of bread, my voice dripping with sarcasm. You people eat nothing but scraps and still have the nerve to look down on my food? Where I'm from, this wouldn't even be good enough for pigs. They'd complain it's too lean. No, pigs aside, even guard dogs wouldn't bother chewing on this. Is this what you city people call refinement? I think it's stinginess without limits. After tidying up the smoked meats and sausages, I couldn't be bothered to look at the Song family's faces, now black as the bottom of a pot. I turned and went straight back to my room. But I had underestimated Song Tan-hoon's level of viciousness. The next day was the weekend. I was sitting cross-legged on the living room sofa, watching TV and threading beads when Song Tan-hoon walked in with several so-called high society heiresses. She was holding a bottle of some limited edition perfume. The moment they entered, those girls all covered their noses in unison, putting on an exaggerated show. Oh my God, Tan-hoon, is this your country bumpkin sister? The smell in this house is unbearable. This time, Song Tan-hoon didn't pretend to be pitiful. She smiled gently as she walked over. But her gaze was glued to the packs of spicy beef jerky on the coffee table in front of me. That beef jerky was made by my foster father himself. I hadn't even eat it, I was saving it for last. Sister, she said softly, the smell is too strong. Our guests will feel uncomfortable. As she spoke, she twisted open the expensive perfume bottle and sprayed it directly onto the beef jerky. The harsh chemical scent instantly mixed with the chili spice. The beef jerky my foster father had spent 3 nights making was completely ruined. Oh dear, she said lightly, setting the perfume bottle down, the corners of her lips curving in provocation. My hand slipped. But you should thank me. I helped you disinfect it. After all, country food tends to have lots of bacteria. Something inside me snapped. I could tolerate them calling me a bumpkin, but I could not tolerate them trampling on my foster father's sincerity. Are you looking to die? I shot to my feet, my eyes icy. Those socialite girls were frightened by my gaze and hurriedly stepped back. But Song Tan-hoon didn't retreat, instead, she moved forward. Seizing the perfect moment, she grabbed the brocade box sitting in the middle of the coffee table. Inside was a gift Father Song had spent months preparing, meant to be given today to an extremely important figure, a white jade guanyin statue worth 5 million. She turned her back to the others, leaned close to my ear, and whispered in a voice meant for only the two of us. Dripping with malice. Lamb and key, the food your poor foster father sent belongs in the trash. Believe it or not, even if I smash this guanyin right now, my dad will only think it was done by a savage like you. Her eyes turned vicious. Suddenly, she grabbed my hand and yanked it hard toward herself. In the next instant, the white jade guanyin in her hand was hurled violently to the floor. She followed the motion, falling face first into the shattered pieces. The shrill sound of jade shattering rang out, followed by Song Tan-hoon's piercing scream. Ah, my hand, sister, don't hit me. Fresh blood instantly dyed the white jade shards red. That move was ruthless. She pressed her palm straight into the sharp fragments. Flesh and blood mangled. The socialite girls screamed in panic. Murder. The country girl is killing someone. I stood frozen, staring at the chaos on the floor and the fleeting, feral smile at the corner of Song Tan-hoon's lips. How interesting, I thought. This fake heiress is even crazier than I imagined. The commotion was huge. It immediately alerted the people upstairs. When father and mother Song rushed down, a horrific scene unfolded before their eyes. The priceless white jade guanyin was shattered into pieces. Their beloved daughter lay in a pool of blood, her palm torn open, crying so hard she was about to pass out. And I stood beside her, expressionless, looking like a heartless demon. Dad, Song Tan-hoon's face was pale as paper. She raised her bleeding hand and trembled as she pointed at me. I just wanted to help my sister clean up. She said she hated my things, pushed me, and smashed the guanyin you were giving to Mr. Lee. My guanyin. Father Song stared at the shards on the floor, his eyes nearly popping out. That statue was the key to whether the Song family could secure their next round of investment. My daughter, Mother Song threw herself over Song Tan-hoon, screaming in agony at the sight of her wound. Call an ambulance, hurry. Then both parents turned their gaze on me, eyes that looked ready to devour me alive. Lamb and key. Father Song's roar shook even the chandelier. You animal, that thing was worth 5 million. Even if you sold yourself, you couldn't pay it back. I spoke calmly. I didn't do it. I looked coldly at the whole family putting on their act. She smashed it herself. She also threw herself onto the shards. And she ruined my beef jerky. She doesn't get to argue. Father Song was so furious he laughed. He strode toward me. Tan-hoon wouldn't even bear to step on an ant just to secure her place in this family. You think she'd hurt herself just to frame you? Do you take me for an idiot? Only someone raised in the countryside, with wild blood in their veins, would have violent tendencies like this. Someone, tie her up. 2 bodyguards rushed forward. I was about to resist when Father Song grabbed a golf club from the side and smashed it straight into my back. Agonizing pain exploded through me. I let out a muffled groan, dropped to one knee, and was bound and dragged toward the study. If I don't break this beast's arm today, I don't deserve the surname Song. Inside the study, the air was suffocatingly heavy. Song Tan-hoon had already been sent to the hospital. The weak yet smug look she gave me before leaving was etched clearly into my memory. I was tied to a chair, my arms wrenched behind me. Father Song held a specially made rattan whip, soaked in water, its surface dark and gleaming with menace. Let me go, I said hoarsely. You're using private punishment. I'll call the police. Crack. The rattan whip tore through the air and lashed hard across my left palm. The pain detonated instantly, drilling into my bones. Cold sweat burst out all over me. 1 lash, 2, 3. Father Song whipped me as he roared. Call the police? In this house, I am the law. That poor foster father of yours raised you into this thing. Then I'll teach you properly in his place. Reeking of poverty, greedy for money, lying through your teeth, you're a disgrace to the Song family. I clenched my teeth and didn't make a sound. Tears welled up in my eyes. But I bit down hard and refused to let them fall. As I struggled, I discreetly pressed the recording button on the recording pen hidden in my pocket. It was something my foster father had pressed into my hand before I left, telling me it was for business negotiations, just in case. I never thought I'd use it like this. 20 lashes later, it was over. My left hand was swollen like a steamed bun, red and purple, burning and numb. Father Song tossed the whip aside and glanced at me with disgust. Lock her in the basement. Let her out when she's figured things out. No one brings her food tonight. If she starves, so be it. The heavy iron door of the basement slammed shut. Pitch darkness surrounded me. Only a high ventilation window let in a sliver of pale moonlight. The air was damp, moldy, and bone-chilling. I leaned against the wall, using the faint light to look at my swollen left hand. I blew on it lightly. It hurt like hell. But this beating wouldn't be in vain. With my still usable right hand, I took out the recording pen and watched the tiny indicator light blinking. I let out a cold laugh. Savage, poor, trash, disgrace. Every single word had been recorded clearly. My stomach growled again. I struggled to unzip my jacket and fished out a flattened pack of spicy beef jerky from the inner pocket. It was the last pack I'd managed to snatch back after Song Tun-Hon sprayed perfume on the rest. My phone had already been confiscated. I didn't know what time it was anymore. I only knew that I was cold and starving. My hands swollen like a steamed bun. The pain drilling straight into my heart. Tonight was supposed to be the time my foster father and I did our daily video call. I didn't answer. With that old man's temper, 30 minutes without hearing from me was enough for him to flip the whole world upside down. Sure enough, just as I was drifting in and out of consciousness, on the verge of falling asleep, a massive explosion suddenly rang out upstairs. It sounded like the villa's thick bronze gate had been smashed down by a car. Right after that came a furious roar that tore straight through the basement. So loud that dust rained down from the ceiling. Song Jian-guo, you turtle bastard, get the hell out here. Where's my youngest? I snapped my eyes open. Tears poured down instantly. It was my foster father, Old Man Lin. I gathered all my strength and rushed to the iron door, pounding it wildly with my still functional right hand, the sound echoing deafeningly. Dad, I'm here, I'm locked in the basement. Upstairs instantly descended into chaos. Who are you people? How did you get in here? Where's security? Call the police. Song Jian-guo shouted in panic. Call your damn mother to disappear. Less than half a minute later, hurried footsteps thundered outside the basement. Bang! A deafening crash, the lock was smashed open. Blinding light flooded in, stabbing my eyes. Standing tall in the backlight was Lin Ji-chang. He was wearing his familiar wrinkled floral shirt, feet and shoes splattered with mud. His eyes were bloodshot, veins webbing through them. It was obvious he'd just gotten off a red-eye flight and hadn't rested for even a second. The moment he saw me curled up in the corner, this man who had once dominated Chengdu's business world, who hadn't blinked even after being slashed twice, suddenly went weak in the knees. My girl. He rushed over, hands trembling as he reached out to pull me into his arms. But the instant his gaze landed on my left hand, swollen, bruised, purple-black as if it might burst, he froze. What happened? His voice shook violently. What happened to your hand? At that moment, Song Jian-guo rushed down with security guards in tow, furious beyond reason. Lin Ji-chang, you broke into my home illegally. I'll sue you. Smack. A thunderous slap exploded through the air, cutting off everything Song Jian-guo was about to say. The blow was so heavy it spun him half a circle. His gold-rimmed glasses flew off, blood immediately spilling from the corner of his mouth. Lin Ji-chang grabbed him by the collar and slammed him hard against the rough concrete wall. Broke into your house? He snarled. Today I'm ready to kill and pay with my life. When my daughter didn't answer last night, I knew something was wrong. I entrusted her life to you. What the hell did you do to her in just a few days? He pointed straight at my swollen hand, spittle flying all over Song Jian-guo's face. This is the prestigious family you talked about? This is your so-called proper upbringing? I raised her for 16 years. I never dared touch her with a heavy finger, and you dared whip my daughter. Mother Song screamed and rushed forward, trying to pull him away like a madwoman. Let go of my husband. That little bitch smashed the statue herself. Get lost. The group of chefs Lin Ji-chang had brought from his restaurant, still in their work clothes, cleavers and soup ladles in hand, stepped forward and blocked her path. Men who'd slaughtered chickens and butchered ducks for over a decade stared her down with ferocious eyes. Mother Song's legs went weak. She collapsed onto the floor. Lin Ji-chang didn't even spare her a glance. He turned back to me, carefully lifting my injured hand, gently blowing on the bruised bone. Does it hurt, sweetheart? His voice cracked. Dad came too late. Let's go. Dad's taking you home. He took off his coat, wrapped me tightly in it, then scooped me up with one arm, just like he used to when I was little. Then he turned his head. His gaze sharpened into a blade, pinning the 3 members of the Song family who had gone pale with fear. This hand, and the days you starved my daughter. Song Jian-guo, just you wait. If I don't bankrupt the Song family, I'll write the surname Lin backwards. He took me straight to the best private hospital in Beijing in a Rolls-Royce. The entire ride, his hands trembled non-stop as he cradled my swollen hand. Tears soaked the cuffs of his sleeves. The doctor came out holding the X-ray films. His face tense. Severe soft tissue damage. There are signs of minor fractures in the palm bones. She's also dehydrated. Who did this? The doctor demanded. This kind of beating was meant to cripple the child's hand. Lin Ji Chang kicked over the trash can in the hospital corridor. Crack bones. Break bones. His eyes were red-rimmed as he paced back and forth, muttering non-stop. Song Jian-guo, I'll chop off your hand and feed it to the dogs. Just then, his phone rang. It was Song Jian-guo. I motioned for him to put it on speaker. On the other end, Song Jian-guo's voice was furious and arrogant. Lin Ji Chang, you country bumpkin, you dared hit me and kidnap my daughter. Let me tell you, I've already called the police. Get ready for jail. If you know what's good for you, bring that girl back and make her kneel and apologize. Maybe I'll even spare you. My foster father took the phone, his voice colder than ice. Song Jian-guo, have you been pretending to be a tycoon for so long that your head's full of shit? Who do you think I am? You think I'm just some restaurant owner in Chengdu? There was a brief silence. Then Song Jian-guo sneered. Aren't you just some nouveau riche? So what if you've got money? In Beijing, I can crush you whenever I want. Connections? Lin Ji Chang laughed, a laugh so cold it was terrifying. He pulled out a stack of documents that had just been printed and read straight into the phone. Song Group Catering, 36 Sichuan cuisine branches across Beijing. Core ingredients, Hanyuan peppercorns, Erjing chili peppers, Pixian bean paste, premium beef tallow, fresh goose intestines. Your entire supply chain depends on a company called Chu Yun Agriculture. Doesn't it? On the other end, the line went dead silent. Song Jian-guo's voice began to shake. How do you know that? That's our largest strategic partner. Strategic my ass, my foster father roared, so loud my ears rang. Listen carefully, idiot, I am the chairman of Chu Yun Agriculture. I'm the grandfather of your entire supply chain. I'm the man you once knelt down and begged to cooperate with. What? A crashing sound came from the other end. The phone had probably dropped in shock. That's impossible, Lin Ji Chang, Chu Yun, you. My foster father didn't bother listening anymore. He pulled out a second phone right in front of me and called a senior executive. Hello, this is Lin Ji Chang. Pass down my order. Cut off all raw material supplies to Song Group's Beijing restaurant chain immediately. I don't care about contracts or breaches. I'll pay whatever compensation it takes. Even tens of millions, I can afford it. And inform the entire Southwest Chamber of Commerce. Anyone who sells Song Jian-guo even a single chili pepper is declaring war on me. He hung up. Then he looked back at the call that was still connected on speaker and smiled, a smile full of murderous intent. President Song, I heard you were planning a 3-day banquet for your birthday. Let's see what you'll serve your guests tomorrow. Go ahead, hold up empty plates and dance while drinking the northwest wind. When he finished speaking, he tossed the phone onto the sofa, turned around to look at me, and the sharpness in his eyes instantly melted into boundless tenderness. Baby girl, are you hungry? He bought out the entire restaurant next to the hospital and had them cook hot pot just for me, lavish. No expense spared. Inside the VIP ward, someone actually carried in a full pot of beef tallow hot pot. The rich, Spicy aroma completely overwhelmed the sterile smell of disinfectant. I had just dipped a slice of beef tripe into the bubbling broth and hadn't even had time to bring it to my mouth when... Bang! The door was kicked open. Song Jian-guo stumbled in. Gone was the lofty, untouchable tycoon from before. His hair was a mess. His tie crooked, sweat drenched his forehead, and his face was drained of all color. The moment he saw us calmly eating hot pot, his legs gave out. Thud. He dropped straight to his knees. Family, Chairman Lin, this is all a misunderstanding. Everything is a misunderstanding. Song Jian-guo scrambled forward, trying to grab my foster father's hand, but a bodyguard shoved him aside. He staggered and nearly fell flat on his face. The purchasing department just reported, every single supplier in the city has stopped deliveries. Even the ingredients for tomorrow's birthday banquet are gone. Chairman Lin, please, show mercy. This is killing me. My foster father leisurely picked up a piece of pickled mustard greens. Crunch, crunch. He chewed slowly, eyes never lifting. Killing you? He said flatly. When you beat my daughter, did you ever think you were taking her life? Song Jian-guo's face flushed red with panic. He turned to me and forced out a smile uglier than crying. Good girl. It was Dad who was confused. Dad was just anxious for you to succeed. How about this? I'll compensate you. There's 5 million in this card. Spend it however you want. Just ask your foster father to resume supplies. 5 million. I set my chopsticks down and looked at his groveling, obsequious face. It made me nauseous. Song Jian-guo, I said coldly, weren't you just calling me a poor girl a moment ago? Hearing that, my foster father suddenly laughed. He put down his chopsticks and clapped his hands twice. Bang, bang. 2 bodyguards waiting outside immediately carried in 2 black suitcases and placed them on the floor. Click, click. The suitcases opened. The one on the left was filled to the brim with gold bars, glittering brilliantly. The one on the right was stacked high with property deeds, real estate certificates and commercial ownership documents. Red and gold intertwined, so dazzling it nearly blinded Song Jian-guo. My foster father casually grabbed a handful of gold bars and shook them in front of his face. 5 million? He scoffed. You think that's alms for a beggar? Open your dog eyes and look carefully. This is pocket money I prepared for my daughter. Pick any one deed from this case, and it's worth more than your lousy 5 million card. He stood up and pointed straight at Song Jian-guo's nose from above. You saw her wearing slippers and thought she was poor? That trashy food conglomerate of yours, how much cash do you even have left on the books? Aren't you surviving purely on credit from my supplies? Song Jian-guo's entire body began to tremble. Cold sweat dripped down his chin. He had been hit right in the vital spot. This so-called elite family was nothing but an empty, polished shell, rotten to the core. My foster father pulled out a debt note from his chest and slapped it straight onto Song Jian-guo's face. Since we're talking about money, let's settle everything. 80 million in unpaid goods. I'll be generous and add interest, round it up to 90 million. If the money isn't in my account before dawn tomorrow, I'll file with the court to freeze all your assets and force bankruptcy. Liquidate everything, not a single cent spared. Song Jian-guo's eyes rolled back. He collapsed onto the floor with a thud, his face ashen. It was over. Cash flow severed, suppliers closing in, banks calling in loans. All because he dared to slap the face of a so-called poor girl. The entire Song family was finished. I picked up a now cold piece of beef tripe and tossed it onto the plate of bones. Smiling faintly. Dad, I said, have someone drag this eyesore out. I've lost my appetite. As the Song family's financial lifeline snapped, bankruptcy became a matter of hours. Song Qinghuan went completely insane. That very night, she uploaded a heavily edited video online. The clickbait title exploded across the internet. Daughter of a mafia boss brings foster father to assault people and seize a noble family's fortune. The video used footage of my foster father storming into the basement to rescue me, followed by the thunderous slap he gave Song Jian-guo in the hospital corridor. She cut out every scene where Song Jian-guo cursed and beat me, leaving only footage of my foster father leading a group of men in black, who looked like gangsters, charging into the villa. And Song Jian-guo sprawled on the floor, bloodied and beaten. In front of the camera, she cried like pear blossoms in the rain. Her specialty. The older sister who just came back home colluded with thugs from outside. Her foster father is a mafia boss. He broke into our house and beat people. My dad was beaten so badly he had to be hospitalized. They're even demanding 90 million from us. This is blatant extortion. We can't survive anymore. In an instant, netizens who didn't know the truth erupted in righteous fury. My social media accounts were drowned in hundreds of thousands of hateful comments. Is this a real heiress? She looks like a thug. This needs to be investigated, especially that foster father. Beating people in broad daylight? Gangsters, get out of Beijing. Poor Qing Huan. Looking at the flood of abuse. My foster father was so furious he nearly crushed his phone, ready to trace IP addresses and hack every single one of them to pieces. I held his hand and smiled coldly. What's the rush? I said. She wants fame? I'll send her straight to the top of trending. 10 minutes later, I went live, across the entire internet. No filters, no beauty edits, no luxurious villa backdrop. Just the plain wall of my foster father's temporary office, completely covered with certificates. Certificates of Hope Project donations. Outstanding Individual for Earthquake Relief. Model Taxpayer Household of the Year. All urgently sent over by my foster mother. The livestream instantly exploded past 1 million viewers, most of them rushing in to curse me. I ignored the comments and slowly turned the camera toward the wall filled with honors. This, I said calmly, is the mafia everyone's yelling about? I don't know of any gangster who donates to build 2 Hope elementary schools every year. Or any thug who's awarded model taxpayer of the province. As for that pitiful heiress you're defending, she dared to upload videos of us hitting someone. So why didn't she dare upload the part where her father locked me in a basement and starved me for 2 days and 2 nights? The comments froze. Then I pulled a voice recorder from my pocket, the one I used in the basement, held it to the mic, and pressed play. Static crackled. Then Song Jian-guo's vicious voice roared through the livestream. Lock her in the basement. No one brings her food tonight. Let her starve, dead or alive. I don't care. That trash foster father raised you into this useless thing. Then came the sharp cracks of a rattan whip striking flesh, mixed with my muffled cries of pain. The livestream went dead silent. Anyone with functioning ears could tell who was right and who was wrong. Yes, my foster father hit someone. He was a father who witnessed his daughter being tortured. His rage was instinct. It was justified resistance. I turned off the recorder, picked up a freshly cooked piece of beef tripe from the bubbling red-hot pot, and chewed with satisfaction. Did you hear clearly? I asked. This is the so-called happy noble family Song Qing Huan keeps talking about. A biological father who locks his biological daughter in a basement, starves her for 2 days, and tries to beat her to death. If my foster father hadn't flown in time to save me, the weeds on my grave would already be chest high. I set down my chopsticks and looked straight into the camera, smiling with quiet mockery. A family so rich they won't even give their daughter a meal. Honestly, if a stray dog wandered in, it would know to tuck its tail and run. Public opinion detonated. The narrative flipped 180 degrees. What the hell, this is straight up abuse. Listening to that makes me want to punch a wall. I checked, every certificate on that wall is real. Shuyan Agriculture is a verified model enterprise. He deserved that slap. Song Qing Huan is disgusting, editing videos and spreading lies. This is a real heiress? She's pure green tea trash. Overnight, Song Ching-huan was completely exposed by the internet. Hashtags shot straight to the top of trending lists. Song Jian-guo abused his daughter. Fake heiress Song Ching-huan exposed. Green tea bitch Song Ching-huan. But even after winning the media war, my foster father still had no intention of letting it end. He set his phone down on the table. His eyes were cold, terrifyingly so. In business, you pull weeds out by the roots. Anyone who dares touch my daughter, bankruptcy is already mercy. Early the next morning, my foster father carried his briefcase straight to the Tax Bureau and the Administration for Industry and Commerce, personally filing Shi Mingju Bao formal complaints under his real name. As the largest supplier of the Song Group, every single bad debt Song Jian-guo had was firmly in my foster father's hands. Substituting inferior goods, expired raw materials, dual contracts used for tax evasion. One count after another, each with ironclad evidence. Invoices, audio recordings, complete documentation. Before noon even arrived, police sirens wailed outside the Song Group headquarters. Song Jian-guo had just finished an emergency meeting and was about to move assets when the police burst in and arrested him on the spot. They slammed him to the ground. Cold handcuffs snapped shut around his wrists. As he was escorted to the police car, he happened to see me and my foster father standing by the roadside, calmly eating ice cream. He glared at me, eyes bloodshot, as if they were about to explode, still hurling curses non-stop. But what awaited him was a sentence long enough to swallow an entire lifetime. The Song family officially collapsed. The villa was sealed by court order. All assets frozen. Madame Song, drowning in personal debt, was chased to her doorstep by creditors. She cried as she sold off every last piece of jewelry and every designer handbag she owned. In the end, penniless, she dragged a sack of belongings into a damp, pitch-dark basement in a slum. That day, I happened to pass by on business. I glanced once and thought, karma really does strike fast. That place was even worse than the basement she once locked me in. After cleaning up the mess in Beijing, my foster father and I prepared to return to Sichuan. Just as we reached the hotel entrance, a filthy, disheveled figure suddenly lunged out and clutched my leg. It was Song Ching-huan. Only a few days had passed, yet her custom-made uniform dress was so worn it was impossible to tell its original color. Her hair was tangled like a bird's nest. "Sister, sister, take me with you," she sobbed uncontrollably. This time, the crying was real. I know I was wrong. Uncle Lin has so much money, he won't miss one extra bowl of rice. Take me back to Sichuan with you. I can work, I'll clean, cook, anything. I don't want to live in a basement. I don't want to be a wage laborer. Looking at her groveling, pitiful state, I only found it funny. She was the same one who used to curse me as a bastard, who wished I'd die on the streets. Now that the Song family had fallen, she came crawling to latch onto me, treating me like a dumping ground. I shook her off in disgust and stepped back. My foster father was about to call security to drag her away. I raised my hand to stop him. Casually, I picked up a chipped porcelain bowl smeared with chili oil from the roadside noodle stall we'd just eaten at. I bent down, smiled brightly, and stuffed it into her hands. "You want food? Going to Sichuan is out of the question. My family doesn't keep useless people. We especially don't keep ungrateful traitors." "But honestly," I said, tilting my head, "with that face of yours, if you practice crying for a few more months, you'll definitely have a future." I pointed toward the crowded street. "This bowl's a gift, no need to thank me. You've got real talent for begging. Squat in one place and cry, bet you'll make more than your dad rotting in prison." With that, I hooked my arm around my foster father's and got into the car without looking back. Behind us, Song Ching-huan clutched the chipped bowl and sat in the cold wind, wailing like the sky had fallen. This time, No one pitied her anymore. After finishing up the remnants in Beijing, my foster father waved his hand and chartered a private jet to take me back to Chengdu. The moment we landed, the familiar humid air rushed into my lungs, mixed with the faint scent of chili. My whole body relaxed. Home. My foster father carried my suitcase, grinning ear to ear, teeth on full display. The moment we stepped into the old residential alley where we lived, I almost thought my vision was blurry. Good Lord. The entire alley was hung with red lanterns. Dozens of round tables covered in red cloth stretched from one end of the alley to the other. A full-on Sichuan-style village banquet. Neighbors beat drums and gongs. Firecrackers exploded non-stop, livelier than Lunar New Year. The youngest is back. Oh my God, An's gotten so skinny. So pitiful. Aunt Zhang, Uncle Li, Grandma Wang, everyone who'd watched me grow up swarmed over. They patted my face, shoved freshly fried crispy meat and steaming brown sugar glutinous rice cakes into my hands. Old Lin, what kind of father are you? Huh? Aunt Zhang smacked my foster father's back, scolding him affectionately. Letting the kid get this thin, shame on you. The chairman who'd ruled Beijing with an iron fist. The man who sent Song Jianguo straight to prison, now just grinned sheepishly and lowered his head. Yes, my fault. Tonight everyone eat and drink freely, it's on me. Bringing my youngest home so she won't be scared anymore. The feast began. Dozens of massive hot pots were placed on burners at once. Beef tallow boiled furiously, the aroma spreading across 3 entire streets. Beef tripe, pork throat, goose intestines, tripe. Plate after plate of food came non-stop. I sat at the main table, a huge chicken leg in my left hand, dipping beef tripe with my right until my lips shone with oil. This is what living means. Who cares about table manners, portion control, etiquette? Throw it all away. Here, if you don't eat until you have to hold onto the wall to walk, you're insulting the chef. 3 rounds of alcohol, 5 flavors of dishes. My foster father's face flushed red. He rolled up his sleeves and shouted. Clear the tables, bring out the mahjong. In a flash, dozens of mahjong tables were set up. Tiles clattered, laughter roared. I propped one foot on the chair rung, watching my foster father lose until his face twisted, and warmth spread through my chest. I suddenly thought of the cold villa of the Song family. That so-called noble household. They had money, but no warmth, family bonds thinner than paper. Here, it was loud, chaotic, but this everyday warmth was what made people truly alive. My foster father threw out a tile, 2 of myriad. My eyes lit up. I slammed my tiles down. Who? Pure suit, edge weight, with flowers. I laughed brightly and stuck my hand out. Pay up, Dad, this one's huge. My foster father cursed affectionately while pulling out money, smiling like a steamed bun in bloom. Get bullied outside and you cry. Come home and you strip your own dad clean at mahjong? I took the stack of bright red bills and kissed his cheek. Of course. Gold mansions and tall gates don't compare to the doghouse at home. As long as you're here, Dad, hot pot to eat, mahjong to play. I'm the happiest heiress on this entire planet. That's the end of today's story. If you enjoyed it, please like the video, subscribe to China Story Tales, and stay tuned for more stories.